On tonight's edition of the CHGO Cubs Related Podcast, we'll talk about the Zac Gallen rumors, if the Cubs are done building their roster and spring training is around the corner. We'll get you ready as the Cubs get ready to take on 2026 on tonight's edition of the CHGO Cubs Related Podcast. This is the CHGO Cubs Related Podcast driven by Toyota. Let's go places. Hello, everyone. My name is Corey. I am joined, as always, by Brendan. We are coming to you on January 29th. Spring training right around the corner. I see our guy Corey. Saw him in the Discord earlier. Says just stopping in before catching some traders. Love that show. We want to do a separate thing on that. I am actively thinking of watching that show as we're recording this, but it's not Cubs related, so I will lock in. Brendan,
let's go. It's 2 weeks until pitchers and catchers. What are we doing over here? Come on, lock it in, Corey. I expect more from you as the lead host, the host of the Cubs related podcast. What are we doing? Let's go. Come on.
You haven't, you're probably off on your Alan Cumming game, but that's fine. So on tonight's episode, just kind of taking a look at some more of the rumors. I think the Zac Gallen topic continues to be one that we hear some smoke on, but that one may depend on the market and, what kind of contract offers he has, what the Cubs might be comfortable with. And I think, Brendan, just continuing to look at, we heard it in the winter meetings discussions, I think from Jed, from Carter, definitely from Craig Counsell, who sort of explicitly says he didn't think the roster was done and wasn't there, right? And then even hearing Jed the other day on the recap podcast talking about, are they done? Are they still looking at stuff? And kind of what do they mean by that? We've seen some minor league moves, Brendan, guys like Dylan Carlson, Chas McCormick. They had brought in Justin Dean. Tyler Austin is not, I believe, a major league deal. So, but some of these more minor moves, so do they mean kind of filling out the roster in that way? Are they still looking at some of the bigger names that are still out there? Gallen being one of them. I don't expect them to be in it, Brendan, but a guy we talked about at the beginning of the offseason, Framber Valdez, is still sitting there seemingly waiting for a team to get over his catcher cross up, stuff like that. So kind of just taking a look at, if they're not done, what might that mean for this 2026 roster?
My thoughts go to the pitching. We know about the Cubs wanting to improve positional flexibility and depth. We see Chas McCormick being signed, Dylan Carlson being signed to minor league deals, Justin Dean, who you just mentioned. So they appear to be filling out the positional side with depth in those minor league outfielders, but there's not a robust market for positional free agents where you would want to go out and spend, $5+ million. On the pitching side, the market is still not fully done. Zac Gallen, Framber Valdez, you mentioned it. And for someone like Zac Gallen, we'll talk about his stuff and his options in greater detail as the show goes on. But just as a starting point, I know you're maybe not instinctually liking the idea or trying to piece together all the parts. But from my perspective, I can see it making a lot of sense, not just for 26, but 27 and beyond. And really the motivation for me liking that idea is driven by 2027 and beyond.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I don't like it. It's more just as the conversations have evolved, trying to piece together how
does it work?
Yeah, how does it work? But, that is one of those things where ultimately my position would be, that's not my job to solve. And if they're spending money and bringing in talented players, and, Gallen would be one that you're looking to kind of fix a little bit from what went wrong with him last year. But I'm never going to be.
I think that's overblown, but we'll talk about it.
Well, just in terms of getting better results.
Of course. Fine. But I think the whole, and I'm not putting words in your
strong word.
Well, you hear it all around from social. I don't believe fix is an accurate description of his overall profile. I want to push back on that.
Back to glory. Fine.
I mean, whatever, but there's still, we'll talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, I do think though, ultimately, like I feel like I'm thinking like, okay, how are they going to make this work? But at the same time, like, they have the staff to figure that out. And as I've said many times, Tommy Hotovy and Craig Counsell are excellent people to figure that out. And if the front office keeps bringing these guys in, it's for a reason. They're not naive to the potential situation you would end up in where you're saying, hey, we feel like we have 6 or 7 capable starters. How are they all pitching? How are we all keeping them on their routine? Some of them we can't send to the minors. Do we move them to the bullpen? Do we do a 6-man? Do we do piggybacks? All these different things. And we can talk about those hypotheticals, but I'm not against that. I'm just sort of wondering aloud how they would do it, but I'm all in favor of them. And one of the points I want to bring up that Jed did, I think, hit specifically on the recap podcast the other day, that like hour-long interview that he did. And then even just thinking back to everybody's comments over this offseason at the winter meetings, at CubsCon, all this stuff. One of the things that seems to be coming up a lot, Brendan, is planning for the worst and being prepared. That's something I feel like I keep hearing Jed mention or at least allude to. And that's where kind of my questions about, well, how do you make it work? Whatever. I'm hearing them saying like, we're going to figure out how it's going to work if they end up making more moves like this and adding to this depth. We'll deal with that. And that would be a lovely situation for us to be in. But the one situation that this front office seems intent on avoiding is kind of what happened last year in the playoffs, where you're asking yourselves like, shoot, like, some of our guys,
how are we even going to get the innings filled?
Yeah. What do we do? Who are we confident in? They seem intent on giving themselves, I wouldn't necessarily call it a problem, but the opposite problem, in saying like, if we end up in a spot where we feel like we have too many guys we want to give the ball to every 5th day, great. But we will not find ourselves with our pants down again, kind of searching for answers.
You look at what the projected innings are for the current staff. Here's the top 5 pitchers with their innings. Matthew Boyd at 167, Jameson Taillon at 153, Shota 147, Cabrera 137, Horton 127. Finishing out that top 10, you have Steele, Ray, Wicks, Assad, Brown, in some fashion, splitting 161. So that's the 10 pitchers right now that are going to fill every single projected starting inning. How does Zac Gallen fit into that mold? You talked about a 6-man rotation. Okay, let's model a 6-man rotation. Each one of those pitchers I just talked about, they lose 4 to 5 starts. Matthew Boyd goes from 167, he goes down to 143. Taillon goes from 153, he goes down to maybe 125 in that territory. Then Zac Gallen would get 25 or so starts with around 125 to 130 innings. That's what a 6-man rotation looks like if every single pitcher is healthy. So that is the situation where it's perfect. If you have perfect health, and if that's the case, you can make those innings work. The second option is the piggyback option. So you want to maintain a 5-man rotation schedule, the conventionality of a 5-man schedule for bullpens in between starts. Then the piggyback option is every 5th day, a starter that should be starting instead comes out of the bullpen for 3, 4, or 5 innings. And in doing so, because you're pitching in those 5th innings, those 6th innings, those innings are normally given to your number 7 or 8 bullpen option. I would rather take Jameson Taillon than the guy riding the AAA bus back and forth. That seems like a better idea to give those innings to, while keeping your entire staff on a 5-day schedule. That can be challenging to maneuver. You have different off days, you have different routines, but that's what Kirk Counsell is hired to do.
Yeah.
And then the very last scenario in 15 seconds is the most likely one. There will be injuries. Matthew Boyd is old. He's entering his late 30s, mid 30s. He's like about my age now.
He's coming straight from
I
Matthew
can
Boyd
say
here,
that because he's my age now, right? And then you have Taillon and Shota coming off injuries. Cabrera has an elbow sprain. The likely scenario is that those guys will be injured and the innings naturally work its way out.
Yeah, and we'll get into some of the specifics on Gallen, just because that's the name that keeps coming up. I think it's potentially the most likely. I think the one thing to watch for there is the offers that he has. I've seen this discussion, on social media, and it makes sense. Like, if he is looking for 1 year and an opt-out because he's not getting the offers that he wants, I don't really think that's going to make a lot of sense for the Cubs. And you already alluded to it. One, they're trying to build some stability for their rotation going forward with some of the guys that they're losing, the contracts that are expiring, but also they'd have to give up the draft pick for the qualifying offer to get him, which for a year, and then having, no assurance, that he's going to be in your rotation beyond that, that doesn't strike me as something that the Cubs would be. That doesn't feel like the deal coming to them, right? Which they may be looking for here. But I think the only thought I would have is, again, I agree with you. Like, guys are, going to be hurt, even if it's, and that's not saying like guys are, their arms are going to fall off, like little injuries, blisters, need a little bit of rest. These things happen, like where you end up skipping a start or a few starts. And how many times have we seen it, right? Where the guy is not on the IL, but he misses one start, then it's 2 starts. And it's like, well, why didn't you put him on the IL in the first place? We go through this every year with this
all
team.
The time.
I think the one thing that would just give me pause when I'm thinking through this is, a lot of these guys very routine oriented. So not that I don't think they can pull it off, and I'll throw it to you here quickly, but I do in my head push back a little. I think doing a 6-man or having some of these guys come out of the bullpen as kind of piggyback guys, it's doable. And you have the staff to do it. And ultimately, hey, look, the players do what you tell them to do. If you tell them they're not starting, there's nothing they can do about it. But a lot of these guys very routine oriented. And so it's at least a little bit of easier said than done when putting it into practice. Again, only in the scenario that everybody's healthy, everybody's humming, and deserving and needing of getting that ball every 5th day.
Yeah, that's the pushback. How do you change routines up? So the piggyback option maintains a 5-day routine, but to your point, you have one guy coming out of the bullpen. Who would that be? Cade Horton? Would it be Cabrera? Would it be those guys? Ultimately, the Cabrera and Horton types who you want to mold into a 150-plus inning guy at their peak. Cabrera, the health injuries, I get it. But the additional con against this argument is the inability, if everyone is healthy, to give Cade Horton or Cabrera, or let's say a developing Jordan Wicks, or let's say Ben Brown figured out a changeup. You kind of reduce the volume and the possibility of those guys figuring it out. Mm-hmm. And so that would be the pushback that I accept. I'm willing to risk that though, because if you can, to your point, if you can get Zac Gallen for 27 beyond, then I think you do have to at least play that risk, and it is a real risk. If it's a 1 year, $20 million guarantee with an opt-out, I'm not interested. I'd rather take the risk and what they currently have and then reevaluate at the trade deadline. For me, it requires a multi-year commitment of no more than 22 million, somewhere in that ballpark, for me to get on board with this.
Yeah. And look, I before we hit our first ad break here too, especially as it comes to, could they do a 6-man, are they putting guys in the bullpen? Are they doing this? If they're making this move, they're well aware of that possibility and they plan for it, or it would signal they are really not confident in that being an issue and everybody being available every 5th day for the entire year, or they have longer, as you again alluded to, developmental plans for some of these guys that have had history of injury, or they're trying to take to the next level that would involve not overworking them and, running them into the ground. Like if they're going to bring in Zac Gallen, it's not something that in mid-April they're sitting in the dugout going, oh, shoot, we have 7 starters. We don't know who to give the ball to.
Now
they know.
Yeah, they'll know. And I'll do the ad break here, but I do want to finish up on one alternative, the fourth option, if you will, that we didn't go over. But I do think there's some ways to work out, the multiple 10 plus innings or 10 plus pitchers that gives everyone the best innings. So we'll talk about that after the first ad break. Let's take a break here for our sponsors. Bet365, whatever the moment, is never ordinary at Bet365. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5, win or lose. That's right. Bet $5. No matter what happens, you're walking away with $200 in bonus bets. And if you're into football, this is where it gets fun. With the Bet365 early payout offer, you're a winner if your team goes up by 17 points. Instant payout on straight bets and parlay selections, even if the game is not over yet. Plus, Bet365 is a 100% parlay boost, letting you double your potential winnings on parlays. The Super Bowl is coming up. Now is the time. Sign up. Use code CHGO365. Deposit $10. Place a $5 bet. You'll get $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. Bonus bets on spreads, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older if you or somebody you know has a gambling problem. Crisis counseling and referral services are available at 1-800-GAMBLER. In-app only. Offer applies to new customers only. Winter is here. You guys are feeling it. You're freezing. I mean, I'm surprised Corey's eyebrows aren't frozen over there. It's probably because his home is heating up for the challenge. Now is the time to schedule your Four Seasons furnace tune up. Thinking about a whole home generator? We've got you covered. At Four Seasons, we guarantee same-day installation for all your heating, cooling, plumbing, electrical, and generator needs with no extra charge. For nights, weekends, or holidays, save up to $4,000 on furnaces and comfort systems. With Four Seasons heating, air conditioning, plumbing, and electric, furnaces start at $39 a month, and furnace AC combos for $57 a month. Call today, save $50 from your trusted local experts. Four Seasons heating, air conditioning, plumbing, and electric has been serving Chicagoland for over 50 years. We are sponsored by Four Seasons, your trusted local experts for heating, air conditioning, plumbing, electric, and generators. Go visit them at fourseasonsheatingcooling.com for all the special offers and money-saving coupons. That's fourseasonsheatingcooling.com.
All right, and before we jump back into Cubs rotation talk, Zac Gallen, do want to mention something we announced yesterday. CHGO road trip heading to Arizona for spring training, March 5th through 8th. Cubs spring training, Bulls versus Suns. There's going to be happy hours, golf, multiple CHGO crews going to be there. And yeah, head to allchgo.com/events to get tickets and look in for more information, but that'll be fun. Spring training right around the corner, and CHGO will be there.
I will say, if you've never been to Arizona for spring training, it is by far my favorite thing to do the entire year. I go out every single year. I may even go out for that weekend, but every year I make an effort to go to Sloan Park. I like even going to the other ballparks. The weather is perfect, 75, 85. Restaurants are great. I lived there for several years, went to college there. You guys need to get out there. My favorite thing, practice fields. 10 a.m., practice fields. I'm watching grounders for an hour, the best thing of the entire year.
Well, and you might have Alex Bregman out there at 4 a.m. fielding. That's
grounders.
Right. Yeah,
I'll go out there with Alex Bregman if he needs a double play partner. I got my A2000 right in the car.
Yeah. Please stay away from him. We'll make sure it's part of the road trip itinerary that you're not allowed near the players. I don't think you can talk to Tommy Hotovy. That's it.
I used to take ground balls with Cubs players. I swear to God, back then. I'm not going to name who, but I sure did.
You're basically on the team.
People thought I was. They asked who I played for.
You're the infield depth. You're the Chas McCormick of the infield.
That's my dream.
Getting back into the rotation depth, and I want to talk about Gallen specifically because it feels like if they are going to do that, that would be the direction. Maybe there's other names or trades, and look, I still hear a lot of chatter with Boston and Matt Shaw, and that might involve some younger pitching prospects. Those seem to be the names being tossed around, but Zac Gallen seems to be where the smoke is. And if the Cubs are going to continue adding in that area, That would be my guess, just because they've been connected to him basically since the start of this offseason. But, reading some of the stuff from our friends at Bleacher Nation, and also congrats to Michael Cerami, by the way. He's releasing a children's book. Check that out, bleachernation.com. Friend of the show. But they mentioned in one of their articles, the Cubs got at least 4 starts from 9 different guys last year. Now, one of those was Drew Pomeranz. So he was just opening, and I don't know if you want to count that, but
no, you count it, because who else is going to get
sure, it's reflective of the overall points that they got that many starts, at least 4 from 9 different guys, and then still found themselves at the end of the season and in the playoffs asking who was effective, who was healthy, who could they trust to not give up a 450-foot home run to Andrew Vaughn, and lo and behold, it was still happening. So it's all just to say that for as much as you may preemptively, and I'm guilty of this, like I'm the one asking this, but how do they make it work? Are they doing a 6-man? Are they optioning guys? Are they putting guys in the bullpen? What about this guy? What about this guy? It's much more likely that is not the outcome. Right. The much more likely outcome is that someone is not effective. Someone is hurt. Again, knock on wood, hopefully not in a significant way, but just in a way that misses a start or 2, misses a month. We saw that from Tyone basically every year. Shota dealt with that. Matthew Boyd dealt with that. Not season-ending injuries or debilitating injuries, but hey, they're out for a month and a half. You got to figure out who's making those 6-7 starts over the next, few weeks. So that's the more likely scenario. Yeah. So now, Brendan, I do want to get into Zac Gallen specifically. And, hey, we've had plenty of conversations over the years in depth about guys that are never Chicago Cubs. If it doesn't happen, oh well. But at least just to prepare, if they do make the move, what about him in particular is intriguing? And I think, given that we're kind of looking at this as a big list of options and depth, what would he be bringing to this group? Maybe not necessarily that they don't already have, but what is he adding to this group if they do end up making that move?
He's adding predictability. So his stuff, when we talk about models fit profiles like Zac Gallen. When Zac Gallen is bad, why he's bad. When he's good, why he's good. He fits the models. And for Zac Gallen, what I mean by that is, look at this illustration on the screen right now. So this is every single pitcher reduced by all their StatCast metrics in this reconstructed pitching universe. Now, all the dots in the middle in the blue area, these are like siblings. These are like close stars. If you notice, Zac Gallen's in the middle. He's like a lot of different pitchers. Sometimes this is a good thing. And for Zac Gallen specifically, I think this is a predictability thing, because Zac Gallen, for many years before 2023, he was productive. And we know why he was productive. The main reasons is that he has a fastball with a unique combination, with some cut and some carry that he located well, with a nice north to south profile of breaking pitches, and a changeup to boot. So the reason he's been struggling over the years is the fastball slightly off. This is a guy who, when he throws a fastball, the way it crosses home plate, Corey, is in the 95th percentile of uniqueness. So crosses home plate at like an angle, let's say imagine going to the left-handed batter's box at a more straight angle. And so that's what makes him unique. And over the years, it's deviated just a little bit. There's a slight little hiccup in that fastball shape. But the reason to want someone like Zac Gallen is because you know what needs to be fixed. It's not just a multi-pitch thing. It's not some type of need to develop a second or third pitch type like many of their flyers they take on minor league guys. It's not that. It's a matter of trying to get that fastball shape, which is slightly off, back to where it was 3 years ago. And then the question is, well, why is that happening? I trust the Cubs' incredible investment in biomechanics, in their pitching infrastructure to at least have a good idea of how to address that. What you're getting with Zac Gallen is someone who's predictable, who's conventional, who honestly, if you look at the past 4 years, he might be the biggest, most projectable pitcher on this market because he's thrown more four seams than anyone. You talk about percentiles, 100th percentile four seam fastball thrown last year. You have a huge sample size of what this guy does well and what he does not do well. If you're a model-oriented approach that the Cubs take, I think he does fit their desires, if you will, on spending money.
Yeah, hey, I'm into it. I mean, I think at that point, you would be hard pressed to look at the group and not see the potential ceiling. And ultimately, I don't know the exact number you're looking at, but you're hoping to have a handful of these guys healthy and pitching well when you head into October. You don't need all of them to be. So loading up on this depth and just building that potential ceiling is certainly a way to go. And I go ahead.
I think that to go back to the earlier word they used, the word fix, Zac Gallen over the past 4 years, his expected ERA, I know some folks will roll their eyes at this, but his expected ERA was tight year to year, 3.8 to 4.2. That was the range the past 4 years. That means at worst, his current version is a league average starting pitcher. The going rate of a league average starting pitcher on the market is about $20 million. That is what his current asking price is. So if you actually go out and give a Zac Gallen $20 million contract, you're asking him to produce league average value, which the projections say he has a pretty good chance of doing. And then you get the ceiling, and then you limit the difficulty in filling out your rotation 2027 and beyond, because Shota's coming off the books, Taillon's coming off the books, Boyd's coming off the books. You got to fill these roles somewhere. And in some respect, it's almost like rolling over Taillon's contract to Zac Gallen with a similar type of risk profile and projection profile.
Yeah, and obviously, hopefully you have a better idea. I mean, you will one way or the other of what you're looking at in Cabrera, Cade Horton after a full year. Justin Steele obviously going to be coming back, but hopefully by the end of the year, you feel confident going into 2027 that he's going to be good to go and back to his normal form. Yeah, and so I see Robert's question in the chat. Can someone tell me if Ben Brown is working on another pitch? He's going to be an interesting one, Brendan, because I know, there were plenty of people that when they were throwing him out there as a starter that never wanted to see that again. And I would expect, I've always liked the idea of seeing what he could do in kind of maxing out in short relief, like really committing to that, not as a piggyback guy or, maybe he's spot starting, maybe he's, in mop up duty, but really committing like, all right, let's see if he could be a late inning reliever. But he's also one of those guys that I think they're going to keep him stretched out and try to succeed as a starting pitcher as long as they can. And I don't know what that point is where you kind of fully move off of that, but they've always believed in the potential. You've seen it at times. The flashes are clearly there. And I would guess as we head into this year that that's the angle they try until they feel like they've, sort of exhausted every avenue of making that work.
Yeah, and that is, like, again, one of the consequences of going out and getting Gallen. Because if you're interested in giving Ben Brown that space, that runway to grow into that pre-arb, early arb guy, well, Gallen will be eating those innings, and he'll be taking away innings from probably Jordan Wicks as well. So that is the pushback. But the reason, just to hammer down this point before I do the next ad break, the reason for Zac Gallen is contextual. So it's the 1-year deals the Cubs have coming off the books. It's the next free agent class, which is not particularly inspirational. And it's the depth in this current organization that is a little shallow. I mean, we're talking about Jordan Wicks, Ben Brown. Their ceilings are obvious, but we've seen what their floors have looked like over the past 2 years. And I'm concerned that the Cubs can't get that high volume pitching depth for 2027. And in a way, this is a 2027 move. And if it means my last point, which I wanted to get to after last segment, if everyone is pitching well, and there's consequences to this, but in a perfect world where everyone's pitching well, because Boyd, Shota, and Tyone are on 1-year deals, the front office has operated in kind of a cutthroat fashion before. They may, even if they don't deserve it, go to the bullpen. And if you got to give Zac Gallen his full slate because he's guaranteed, that's just how it works.
Sure.
You got to get Cade Horn his full slate. That's how it works. Now, you could potentially erode trust because those guys don't deserve to go to the bullpen and they may be making less money as a result. But unfortunately, that is how baseball works. And it is a business like that.
Yeah. I mean, and you can approach the trade deadline a certain way. If you're in this seemingly unlikely scenario where you have 8 guys that are deserving of starting every 5th day.
Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, great. And then maybe you have to approach the trade deadline. Hey, we have a surplus here. Like, what else do we need? Like, how do we approach that? But yeah, I mean, look, like, we'll be in that situation if we get there. It would be a wonderful thing. And Justin Steele coming back, looking like his old self and slotting
That
into
would be
a rotation
awesome.
that already has 7 guys who are also healthy and pitching really well. I'm not rooting against it, but it's, again, going back to like listening to Jed Hoyer, he really seemed to be hammering like contingency plans and not facing those other issues of the lack of depth and the lack of options and not being prepared for every possible bad situation. And so I anticipate them kind of going the other direction. Let's hit our next ad break here and we'll be back and keep talking Cubs.
Okay, we're bringing in the new year with dry January. And if you're looking to be a little less saucy this month, Hooters has your back. Check out the Black and Dry Rub. All the flavor, no mess. It pairs perfectly with a non-alcoholic option like Michelob Ultra Zero. And if you're in the mood for something refreshing, Hooters also has a great mocktail, the Red Bull Strawberry Smash, made with Red Bull and strawberry syrup. If you're sticking to your resolutions, doesn't mean you have to give up food, especially at Hooters. Don't forget, Hooters is still one of the best lunch spots in town. Weekdays just got better with some of your favorites with $9.99 or less options, including boneless wings, original wings, the blackened chicken Caesar salad, the original burger, and more. If you're feeding a group, Hooters has you covered with party packs available for dine-in or go to. Cheer on your favorite teams at your local Hooters: Aurora, Countryside, Downers Grove, Joliet, Lansing, Melrose Park, Oakland, O'Hare, Orland Park, Schaumburg, or Wells Street. Check them out at originalhooters.com. Ray CDJR, they're bringing in the new year at Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake with hot deals all month long during their Ray Resolution sales event. Stop in today and drive home with 0% financing for 72 months plus no payments until spring on all new Chevrolet models. Or if you're shopping smart, check out their selection of over 100 pre-owned 2025 vehicles priced under $20,000. With one of Chicagoland's largest Chevy inventories, you're sure to find the perfect vehicle for you. As one of the top-selling Chevy dealers in the Midwest, Ray Chevrolet keeps the prices competitive, so you know what you're getting in every single deal. Plus, Ray's price promise lets you shop with confidence because the price you see is the price you pay. Go see for yourself at their convenient location right on Route 12 in Fox Lake or shop online at raychevrolet.com. Don't miss out on the Ray Resolution Sales event happening all month long. Ray Chevrolet, serving the community since 1963. Together, let's drive.
All right, back with you as we continue to talk Cubs offseason. I do want to read this that was in an Athletic piece from Patrick Mooney yesterday, Brendan, talking about the, Cubs officials, willingness to go over the luxury tax and, sort of being in that spot already, unless they did some significant maneuvering. One of these quotes, I think stands out. The extra flexibility could lead the Cubs to add another hitter to a group that largely stayed healthy last season and improve a bench that was mostly viewed as a disappointment. Moving Matt Shaw into a super utility role while Bregman takes over at third base is a start. The Cubs may also want another outfielder with a higher floor than the players they've recently signed to minor league deals. Intriguing, is it not? This just goes into the, are they done? How much money might they spend? Because in years past, Brendan, the majority of the talk we were getting from some of the beat writers was blatantly the opposite of this.
Yeah, it's just like unfamiliar territory.
Putting it down, like they are not going over the tax. They are not signing this guy. They are not doing this. And so hearing some of these things, doesn't guarantee anything. Sometimes the smoke is wrong, et cetera, et cetera. But it is interesting to continue hearing these like Zac Gallen rumors, these pitching rumors, and to, hear something like that or read something like that from Patrick Mooney, where, we were talking at the start of the show about guys like McCormick and Dylan Carlson that they brought into the fold on minor league deals. Carlson in particular is, not sizable relative to everything else, but if he does make the MLB roster, I think it was a couple $1 million. So not nothing if he does actually stick on the MLB roster. But then to still be hearing like, well, they may not feel like they're done. And that does, take me back to Craig Counsell at CubsCon, I think. CubsCon are the winter meetings, kind of saying like, no, I look at the roster and I don't think there's enough. We need more.
And he did it as like we're not done. There's no way I accept this. That was the tone I got from Craig Counsell. I don't know what that means, dude, because ever since you and I started doing these podcasts, it has been the first year of the luxury tax. Every single year they went over it. They paid about $5 million in fees in the mid to late 2010s, but it would be unfamiliar territory. Right now, they currently stand by MLB cuts by about a couple million below that first tier of the tax. They signed Gallen, they're near the second tier. I don't know if there's payroll, at least cash, that can be rolled over from last year because they didn't go over from the Bellinger money. I don't know how any of that works, but it's refreshing. Like I'm savoring the possibility. I'm already content with the offseason, and now you're going to give me more players, like relatively content in a reasonable form. So I don't know. I do believe if we're going to improve anywhere else, just the money that does make sense in terms of projected value would be in pitching and would be in Zac Gallen. But if they go out and make a trade, let's say Matt Shaw's involved in this trade, maybe, right? Maybe you get a positional piece that makes sense that does surprise us.
Yeah, look, I'm all for them. And it to me, it squares the same as the talk we just had about the rotation, like just planning for these contingencies, having these plans in place in case things go poorly. And that can include injuries, that can include performance. And, look, if you did trade Shaw, we talked last week about liking the idea of having someone who had such a strong second half and who you believe in as a former top prospect to be that super utility guy and serve as that depth in place of thinking like last year, guys like Brujan, Birdie, Justin Turner, Gage Workman, et cetera, Nicky Lopez, right? I mean, it's a longer list. It's like one of those Sporkle quizzes. Like sometimes do you ever do that for the 2025 Cubs, by the way?
No,
I got
it stresses me.
Way less names than I would have thought. And like, as I'm going through, I'm going, oh yeah, right.
I can't
anyway,
do that stuff.
I liked that idea, but if you move him because you feel like you're getting a significant prospect package from someone like Boston, for example, and bringing more, young pitching into the fold, I would like them to not just stay with the offensive group as it is, but like continue saying, okay, we were going to use Matt Shaw in this way. Who are we using in that way now? How do we bring in more depth to this bench and ensure that you can get guys off their feet every now and again, as much as Dansby is willing to relinquish.
Well, Nico already said it ain't happening. He was asked
on a single day. Yeah.
You see that quote by Nico?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if the listeners didn't hear about this. It's like, it's probably on YouTube. This is like, it speaks volume to who Nico is.
At CubsCon, yeah.
At CubsCon, yeah. So I forgot who asked from the Chicago media, but the paraphrase the question was, do you think you can give yourself some days off because Matt Shaw now is the super utility guy? Do you think you need those days off? Nico goes, no. That was that. So you can plug in 700 plate appearances for Nico Hoerner, but it speaks to what you're talking about. These guys don't want days off. And I understand that. especially as a baseball player, you take a few days off, your timing is a little out of sync. Also, you're kind of greedy. If you have an 0 for 4 a day, 0 for 8, 2 days, you want to get back out there. You're miserable. You're depressed. You don't want to talk to anyone. You just want to go out there and turn things around. That extra day is actually torture. It's actually not a day off. It's actually a mental torture in the dugout. So I understand why they want to keep playing every single day.
Well, and now, look, I mean, I think between especially Bregman, Nico, and Dansby, I think you're going to get ribbed a little bit if you take the day off. The other two are going to be out there. They're going to be looking at you like, what are you doing?
Absolutely, man. I mean, like when you talk about this, not to harp too much on it, although I would, but the fact that you and I are talking about Bregman, Dansby, and Nico, 3 shared personality types, the intensity, I do just want to like keep slapping myself in the face. This is remarkably fun, man.
I love it. Yeah.
It's like it's going to be a really, really fun year, and having Dansby and Alex Bregman locked up, it could be a chance for a really memorable next 3 years, 4 years for this team.
Yeah. And I think, going to the offensive front and like, would they add another depth outfielder? Would they add depth if they traded Matt Shaw in addition to some of these, minor league or, lower impact contracts? I think ultimately, like, that's an area where you're really only looking to bring in a guy who can like do 1 or 2 specific things. Doesn't have to be something that you look at on the surface and think is an immediate home run. You may just be looking for someone like, hey, we need someone to hit lefties. We need someone to hit righties. We need someone who can handle high velo right-handed pitching. Or we need a, good defensive replacement that isn't the worst hitter in the league. And sometimes it doesn't work. Like some of those arguments would have been fairer for some of the guys that they tried last year. But I think the exercise is always bring in as much as you can. And unlike last year they found themselves in a position where they were relying on those guys. When they needed to send Matt Shaw down, they needed those guys at third base to play every single day. And they didn't get the return that they had hoped for, in part because they didn't hope to utilize those guys in that way. They hoped to utilize them in, hey, you're hitting against this left-handed pitcher today, and that's kind of it. Hopefully Matt Shaw is playing the other 6 days of the week. That's not the situation that they found themselves in until Shaw came back and was able to find his groove and have a really successful second half. So I think the hope this year would be, especially with putting someone as solid and reliable and just great as Alex Bregman at third base, is that anybody you're bringing in is serving as that depth. You're hoping to only utilize them for those skills and not put them in a position where you're asking them to do more than you should reasonably asking them for.
Yeah, I mean, the way this roster can go down is either an injury to the outfield, underwhelming performances by the DH spot. Let's say Moises Ballesteros doesn't develop. Let's say Matt Shaw needs some more time to develop. We have an offensive void there. Let's say Seiya strains his oblique like he's done a couple times in the past, or Pete Crow Armstrong, God forbid, hair on fire straight into the ivy. Like you do need, I don't even want to be talking about that, but you do need some like depth options. That's why you're getting the bulk volume and Dylan Carlson and Justin Dean and Chas McCormick. So I understand that. Ideally, you would want someone that's already established on the major league roster. And maybe that does come in the form of a trade, right? That's possible as well, although I think it's just not likely. You do have the ability to go out and, let's say by June or July, make a trade to accomplish that depth if you need it. But the positional projections are extremely good. That is the strength of this Cubs team. Their pitching projections are underwhelming. Their positional projections are really strong, among the best in the league. So not just nationally, but the major league, the whole entire league. So if the money's going to be spent, if you're following models, it's probably going to be to ensure that your pitching value meets the demand.
Yeah. And we'll hit our last ad break here in a second. I do think, fair to ask, and I see the comment from Drive Secure in our
the closer
YouTube
one?
chat. Yeah, just if they would do any more in the bullpen. I mean, they've spent a good bit of money
Well, let's
in the
talk about
bullpen.
that after the ad break. I got a nice graph. I got a nice chart for the bullpen. So it fits into that
Do
question.
you? I didn't. I
sure
knew
do.
about the Zac Gallen chart, but a
And this was the
surprise
reason.
chart even
Not
for
even
me.
Sarah knows about this one. Let's see if I can put it up on the board over
I
here.
didn't. That didn't come across in our pre-production meeting.
Well,
That
this
we
came across
definitely
at
have.
it came across at minute 19 and 30 seconds on the show. That's what
All right,
happened.
let's hit our last ad break here, and then we'll finish up. Just talking about the Cubs might make more moves. We'll keep this conversation going. Where might they be?
All right. Can you believe we're already a month into the year? That's usually the point where routines start slipping a little bit. And honestly, that's exactly where Huel has saved me. My days, they get chaotic fast. Mornings turned into skipped breakfast. Amash and Dansby Swanson fuel grinder so I can post my daily videos on Twitter. Whoops, I'm running behind. I need a breakfast that's quick, complete, consistent, not another plan I'd bail on after a week. That's where Huel Black Edition ready to go drink comes in. I keep one on hand for mornings when I'm rushing out the door and one right after a workout. It's a complete meal. You can literally grab and go. 35 grams of protein, 27 essential vitamins and minerals, no artificial sweeteners, gluten-free, and it's under $5. If you're trying to stay consistent this year, this makes it stupidly easy. Right now, get 15% off with my code Cubs15 for new customers only. Huge thanks to Huel for supporting the show. If you're busy, this is an absolute game changer. Game day. Let me tell you about when Game Day Men's Health stopped by the office, because honestly, it lined up perfectly with my worst nightmares, my worst insecurities. As a guy, you start noticing it. Lower energy throughout the day, less motivation, the scales creeping up, the hair is thinning, gray hair, got gray in my sideburns, a lot more gray, Corey. Muscles start getting tighter, my neck's tightening up. I can barely get out of bed. You don't always connect the dots, but a lot of that can come down to low testosterone, and it's way more common as you get older than people realize. Game Day Men's Health focuses on personalized care, whether your goal is peak performance or just being a better father, husband, and man, the process is super easy. You're in, you're out in about an hour. They're a family and locally owned clinic, and their success rate is extremely high. They offer testosterone therapy, vitamin supplementation, weight loss support, and hair loss treatments. It does not matter if you're 27 or well beyond that. If you're feeling off and wondering why, this could be the answer. Game Day Men's Health is here to support your journey, and you can start feeling like yourself again.
All right, Brendan. So let's talk bullpen. I think in that long conversation the other day, Jed Hoyer, kind of reiterated, he talked about it a good bit, but like also reiterated something we know about him, that, there's risk in the heavy volume approach to the bullpen and just kind of loading up on these guys and hoping you can get the best results out of them, tinker with them, put them in a better position to succeed than they've been in before. But that he, sort of feels like the bigger risk is committing multiple years to a high value reliever. And if that doesn't go exactly as you plan it, you're in a bit of a pickle there. So not surprising that this is kind of how they put it together. But as we talked about, like, spent a good bit of money here, brought in some strong options for this bullpen, but have they brought in options that are in that high leverage late inning arena?
Right.
That's the question. And do they need to, or will they kind of just trust their ability to someone will be this year's Brad Keller? We just don't know who it is yet.
Yeah, when the offseason started, you start looking at Sir Anthony Dominguez, who signed with the White Sox for 2 years, $20 million. You start looking at Peter Fairbanks, who signed for double digits in AAV. And those would be the guys I had preferred the Cubs look at. But for $10+ million, the comparison is Hunter Harvey for $6 million, Phil Maton for about $7 million. And they're able to save some of the money from not going double digits and spend on multiple relievers. I think you can make a pretty convincing argument that, at least for bullpen, volume exceeds, one guy that's had a couple good years just as a recent track record. But the way I look at the bullpen now is look at all the different pitching options they have. Here's every single move they have made, whether it's returning guys or going out in free agency to get major league deals or minor league deals. And I'm not even including the 3 most recent minor league deals that they signed over the past few days. But just to give you a ballpark of what they've done, they've signed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 minor league pitchers with profiles that are unique. Colin Snyder is one of them. Colin Snyder has a low release point, has a fastball that should be tailing, but for some reason it carries and it cuts. Corbin Martin, he has some major league experience, throws over 95 miles per hour in a minor league deal. You have Ryan Rollison, literally looks like a Justin Steele mirror. I can get into this on a different day, but his stuff almost aligns perfectly with Justin Steele. Jeff Brigham, MLB experience, has some funk, some low release. His stuff flies. Tyler Beede is a former major league top prospect, former first rounder. Yaxel Rios throws over 96. More recently, Trent Thornton tore his Achilles, has good stuff. Some of that cut profile from his fastball. I'm going to butcher this guy's last name, but Gabe Klubasitis, I believe. He's 6'8", played it in the independent ball. He has, a 6'8" big frame. And then Charlie Barnes, who's played in Asia, has very unique stuff, lefty, but no success at the organized stateside level. Then you have Hobie Milner, Caleb Thielbar, Jacob Webb, Hunter Harvey, Phil Maton, Colin Ray, all coming in to fill out the bullpen. So I just listed almost 20 guys, Corey, that you can look at each one of their profiles and think, yeah, that kind of makes sense. I like the bulk approach. Do I think they need an experienced high leverage reliever? I absolutely do. I just don't know if that's in the form of spending $10 million on one of those guys, given their profiles. That being said, I would have done it, but I'm not going to convincingly say that is the path forward. I can say, okay, yeah, Phil Maton for $7 million, Hobie Miller for a couple million. I see what they're doing there. And yes, given recent track records, it does make sense to spread it out that way.
I like our friend Edward in the chat saying that was a chart, not a graph.
I'm sorry, Edward,
So I don't know the distinction. There weren't any plot points on that, though. So I colored
them.
Fair. Yeah, it was color coded. It was nice to look at.
You are right, Edward.
Yeah, I mean, I think I tend to agree with you overall. I think the stuff that we've talked about so far in this episode, starting pitching depth, continuing to pile on there, and especially depending on what ends up being the outcome, if there is a Matt Shaw trade, if that smoke is even real, et cetera, those would be the areas that if they are going to continue pushing, that would be where I would do it. I think they've proven that they can do good work with this volume approach and they can find these guys. Worst case scenario, you get to the deadline and feel like you don't have anybody to go along with Daniel Palencia and be those late inning leverage guys. And, they even did that to a degree last year, even with the success of Brad Keller. Like Andrew Kittredge pitched a lot of big innings for this team. And that was a guy that they didn't pay a particularly big price for at the deadline. And, there he was like as one of the more reliable guys in this pen. So it's I
don't want to keep doing that though. And going out and trading like mid-tier prospects.
Yeah. I was literally about to say that, especially in a system that is falling further down the rankings. So there's not a lot to continue pillaging from. Yeah. And I think at a certain point, like Dan Cantrevins and his staff might be like, enough, like I'm trying to replenish this stuff. Leave me alone, Jed. But yeah, I think if you're going to push over this luxury tax, I would do it in a more high impact way, which I think is bringing in more starting pitching. Yeah. And if you do find those guys, as you said, you brought in some nice high potential, formerly successful guys on minor league deals. If there are, major league guys that you feel like could slot into this bench right away, I think they would be better served at that. But it's not. I think this front office, and Jed acknowledged this the other day, like they know what the risk is in this bullpen approach. It is very possible that some of these guys don't work out or you don't feel comfortable with them in high leverage spots. And it's something you have to address. But that's why you sort of just pile it on. They're, obviously very big on these biomechanics, these underlying metrics. And there's a lot of these guys that they feel confident there's something they can unlock there. And you don't have to hit, if you bring in 20 guys to camp that you feel are interesting, you don't have to hit on all 20 of them. You need to hit on what? One or two, given the structure of the current bullpen. And, you have veterans in this bullpen, guys you're expecting to be at least somewhat reliable. In terms of turning something around, one or two that, maybe surprise you or really do kind of take that turn that you are envisioning in your best outcome?
Yeah, I mean, some of them it wouldn't even be that surprising. Look at Colin Snyder. This is a guy who had like a 2 ERA season ago, not last season, but the prior season. So some of these guys returning to form isn't even that far fetched. It's not something you would bet your life savings on. But like you said, if you bring in 12 guys on invites to spring training, given how this pitching infrastructure works, yeah, have one or two pan out. That is kind of what you need to at least start opening day.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting. It does feel like uncharted territory to feel like, not only are they deferring money, they're, probably over the tax. I know some of the money is, always still
They're
being
going to go
counted.
over it.
They're going to be over.
Correct.
Like, and, we're still talking about like, no, they feel like they're like their manager openly saying that he doesn't feel like they're done. Just an interesting place to be.
Let's just savor this moment. I mean, we got pitchers and catchers in 2 weeks. This team, some projections think it's the second best team in the National League. We have clean books. We got personality types that could translate to being major league managers 5-10 years from now. Like this is, I've been waiting a long time for this. I mean, honest to God, like since 2018, it's been a little dark most of the time. And I say a little dark, I'm kind of just, being facetious. Like it's been a slog. I mean, a lot of our discussions have been so negative, so frustrating.
You don't long for the days of Rafael Ortega leading off for this team?
Man.
No offense to.
I mean, like we were having discussions and like I'm convincing myself like, oh yeah, like Alfonso Rivas and Frank Schmidl is a good platoon combo. Like that's the discussions we were having. And now it's like, damn, like how do we fit in 3 Gold Glovers and the potential 23-year-old next Gold Glover in Matt Shaw? These are the conversations I've been waiting to have. I mean, I feel like we're back to some degree in the mid 2010s.
Hey, good things happened in the mid 2010s.
Yeah. What happened?
Occasionally.
What
time, I guess.
What happened?
They won the World Series.
Okay, just making sure.
Which I did. I do love. Do you think? I mean, obviously, I know your answer to this, but I'll phrase it as a question.
Okay.
Even as such. You think our boy Tony is a good color man?
Of course.
He joins NBC.
Of course. I mean, first off, give the Cubs more national attention. Are you kidding? Absolutely love it. I didn't even realize NBC was getting a national cast together like that. So I'm excited to see. I know they have the Sunday Night Baseball, but I didn't realize they were like bringing in people for different, pregame booth segments. That's awesome.
Well, and it's a low bar. All they have to do is research the teams that are playing that night at all, and they'll be clearing what ESPN has been doing for the last. So
I didn't read the blurb. Is he in the booth or is he in like a studio? Do you even know?
I'm not positive. I just know he's gonna, him and I think Joey Votto are gonna be doing.
That's pretty cool. I mean, listen, I know, the good thing about Joey Votto is like his peak years coincided with the Cubs' worst years. I don't really hate the guy that much. I like his personality, and so I like Joey Votto quite a bit. That should be a pretty good duo if they're in a studio together. Yeah,
but I mean, I phrased it as a question, but I'm excited for that, and I agree. We talked about this too, like. It's great to have him back and be an ambassador for the Cubs in the way that he has been. It's something we dreamed about, like, and lamented when he was playing in New York. Like, man, like this is the face of the Cubs. Like he's wearing another uniform. We need him back. And I knew he would come back. I didn't necessarily anticipate it would be to this degree.
Well, you never
showing
know.
up at so many of these events and like, just being this Cubs, sort of falling into that, pattern that we've gotten so familiar with, guys like Billy Williams and Fergie and the late Ryan Sandberg, like, and just seeing them all the time and them living and breathing Chicago Cubs baseball. It's great that Rizzo's doing that and that he'll be doing that on a national stage. And, look, especially I feel like, especially after the concussion, the injury and kind of the sudden drop off in his career, I'm happy our boy Tony's getting the bag. Man, get that work, get that NBC paycheck,
That's right.
He deserves it.
They better be paying the guy pretty good. He deserves it.
Yeah. So, all right. I think that's all we have for you. We'll keep an ear to the ground. It sounds like the Cubs may still be active to a significant level, just slightly interesting level. We'll see if there is major breaking news. The CHGO Cubs team will assemble in some form or fashion, as Luke and Brendan did in the middle of a Bears playoff game because Alex Bregman decided to join the Chicago Cubs.
They won because of us.
We will be here. We'll break it down, and we'll get you ready for spring training. But it looks to be an exciting year for the Chicago Cubs, and one that I'm very much looking forward to getting underway, and seeing these guys show up in Mesa and report and get ready to try to win the division and anything they might be able to add on from there. So
it's surreal, isn't it? Like we're 2 weeks away. It's surreal, man.
Especially as it's 8 degrees in Chicago. It certainly is, but soon enough we'll be at beautiful historic
That's why you got to go to
Field.
Arizona and go buy those CHGO ticket things,
75 degrees, green ivy. We'll be there soon.
Oh, the best.
Anyway, Brendan and I will talk to you again next week. We appreciate your support. Again, visit allchgo.com to check out the spring training road trip. We will talk to you again soon. And as always, go Cubs.
We all silly like the